Welcome to Shazza's Laughter Hour here at Radio Northern Beaches 88.7, 90.3 FM, or you can live stream through the website rnb.org.au or through the radio app TuneIn Radio. If you're already listening, you've already done that, so I don't even need to say. Today I have a very exciting special guest. He's none other than comedian, dad and all-round good guy, Steve Philp.
That's nice.
Yes, it is nice.
Lovely intro.
Well, you are very nice, Steve, and thank you very much for your time.
I wonder if you have someone on this show who's not nice. I mean, you probably won't, right? But
I don't think I would.
You know, and how do you intro out of that? What's there? Comedian, dad, and
bad guy. No. Normally, I pick my guests very wisely and always for the benefit of the listener.
It's great.
And I feel that you're going to benefit the listeners overall.
Well, I'm actually offering I can come around to anyone who's listening's house and I'll mow their lawn and I'll do the dishes and I'll put the bins out. There you go.
Okay, so we've got Steve Philp, comedian, bin man, gardener and dad. So that's marvellous. Do you do babysitting as well?
Oh, I hate kids.
You hate them? Oh, that's
just my own. No, just my own. I don't mind my own. I think you're allowed to hate your own kids, aren't you?
Is it because you're exhausted, or is it just they just annoy you because they don't stop talking?
Oh yeah, the kid. Yeah. Well, I've got a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. The 1-year-old doesn't sleep and hasn't slept. We changed his name his name's Dempsey, and we changed it to Insomnia by default because.
Yeah, well, he can always change it back when he gets to 18 and
you think you
not
should be
sleeping is, what they do when they go out, isn't it?
Would you change your name? You can change your name, right?
I can, but I probably wouldn't bother.
No.
Unless I could think of something better.
Well, it'd make Shazza's radio show.
Shazza's Laughter Hour would be different.
Yeah, hey, this is Shazza's Laughter Hour with Karen.
Or if I was becoming a stripper or something, I'd have to change my name to something more authentic.
Okay, now I'm looking at you completely different.
That's a whole other show,
Steve. You're going to accept the $20 I've got in my pocket.
Yeah, that's it. Well, a bit more than that.
You are.
A bit more than that.
But thanks for having me on your show.
You're very welcome, and thank you for taking your very busy lifestyle you have, being a dad,
yes,
looking after the children during the day.
Yeah.
Is your oldest one at school yet?
She went to school this year.
Big school.
First time, big school. She's very excited about it. She was wearing her school uniform for about 6 weeks before she went to school, just to the park. And
yes.
I kept saying to her, you realise that kids are probably going to make fun of you. She just didn't care.
No.
She's like, nah.
Well, it's nice that she was looking forward to actually going rather than clinging around your legs and saying no.
I think so. And daycare... Right, daycare. You can drop the kids off at daycare sometimes like 7:45 in the morning, and then you can leave them there till almost 5:30.
It's marvellous, isn't it?
Yeah, but school it goes so she doesn't start school till 9:15. Then she's done by 3:15. You almost drop them off in the morning and then just stay there and pick them up again.
You just drive around the block and go back. And so, are you at home with your younger child a lot during the week?
Yeah, we juggle it a bit. My wife works full time. She is a drug dealer, and I mean that in the nice way. She sells a prostate cancer drug to doctors.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so she, her job is to meet with doctors, and so she just has appointments. And so she doesn't work 9 to 5 like a lot of people do. So we do have it fairly easy, although in saying easy, every week's completely different, and we sit down on a Sunday or something and say, what have we got on this week?
What's your roster?
Yeah, because a lot of the time, I've been working away a bit lately, and I try not to. Comedians, inevitably, as you will know, their life's on the road. But I've decided to try and do it differently if I can. So I want to stay in Sydney as much as I can because it's my family because I need to help out, and then we don't have to rely on others too much. And so I went away on a 3-night cruise. 3 nights for me is perfect, right? It's enough for me to want to get away from the kids drastically because they're annoying me, and then the 3 days later they go, oh, I really miss them.
I miss them. You probably miss them after the first few days, like at least the first few hours.
Yeah.
And then after a few days, you can't wait to get back.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is a nice way to be.
It is. And I do a bit of audience warm-up, which for anyone listening is, if you've ever been to a TV show filmed where there's a live studio audience, generally there'll be an idiot there who has to fill in the gaps. So not all TV shows are live. Well, even if they are live, there's a commercial break. So a comedian or somebody never used to be a comedian back in the day. Used to be a lot of improv guys, and in the last 10 years or so, it's been mostly comedians doing that role. And it's been a good money earner for me. I've been doing it for over 15 years. And
wow, that's a long time, isn't it?
yeah, and I think you came to one of the first shows I worked on, Ready, Steady, Cook.
Ready, Steady, Cook, yes.
Back in the day. Fantastic
delicious,
cooking show.
all those little sayings you used to get everyone to yell out.
It was my favourite show of all the shows I've worked on, because they kind of said to me, well, firstly, I'd never done audience warm-up before, and my only experience of it, and it was a vague memory, was that my mum, I grew up in Newcastle, and my mum drove me down to Channel 9 Studios, and I'm about to go into that exact studio, and we went to watch the midday show. And
was that Ray Martin?
I can't remember if it was Ray or Darren Hinch did it. Do you remember that? Darren Hinch took over?
Briefly, I think. That could have been well before. Was that after Darren? Darren, was he after or before Ray?
I think Ray was the first, wasn't he?
He was.
Mike, there was another guy.
Who knows, but they're all men anyway.
Yeah, and so I saw a guy called Ewan Campbell do audience warm-up, but I was young. I was 16 or 17, and I didn't really know anything about that stuff. And it was the first time I'd seen it, and he was hilarious. And then if you fast forward, he worked at the NRL footy show from day one, so the footy show's been on air for 25 years. Wow.
That is a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. And he was the warm-up guy for... he did like 12, 13 years. And then I weirdly replaced him. So the guy that I saw do it, then all those years later.
That's some sort of synchronicity, I don't know.
It's odd, isn't it?
It could have been anyone, couldn't it?
Yeah, but the Ready Steady Cook days, so I was working at I was working at Nova on the radio. Yeah. And I was doing a radio show with Simon Kennedy, another comedian who's fantastic and a good friend. And someone sent an email around Nova.
He's lovely.
He's a great bloke. Saying, does anyone want to tell jokes before this new... Channel 10 and Nova are in Pyrmont in Sydney, and they're right next to each other. And they said, anyone want to tell jokes before this new cooking show, which turned out to be Ready Steady Cook? I just said, I'll have a go. And went and tried to do audience warm-up, but never only just seeing that one person do it that one time. So had to learn on the fly. And they were really good with it, because we were doing 5 days a week, 3 shows a day. So you learn pretty quickly. You've got an earpiece, for those people who wouldn't know, and you've got a live feed to the control room, which is director, producer, executive producers, assistant directors. And so sometimes there's like 7 or 8 voices going on in your ear, which most comedians should be used to, because they've all got voices.
We all have the
voices in their heads, right? But at the same time, you're quite often talking to an audience, live studio audience, while you have people talking in your ear. They're not necessarily talking to you. In fact, they very rarely talk to you. If they are talking to you, then you've done something wrong.
Oh, okay. So you're listening to what is going on.
Yeah. It's important to listen, though, because now I've learnt that a warm-up guy is more than just the funny guy. You're also an assistant floor manager, so you'll hear stuff, and someone might say, we need someone to go over there, or this person's in shot. So... And, a floor manager...
Don't tackle someone and get them out of the way.
That's right. Yeah. And a floor manager might be on the opposite side of the studio, and this is happening over here, or whatever. And so you really need to... And I've learnt how to floor manage, and then also the funny comes along and guide the people through that. You have to think about a lot of people's first time in a TV studio, and they're not really sure what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a good gig. It can be really tough. When I first started, I took all the jobs. I was just like, whatever I got offered. Because once you start doing one of them, there's not a lot of warm-up guys. So
they know who you are and they ask for you or contact you?
What happens is TV's very contract-based. So someone might work at Ready Steady Cook for 6 months, and then that contract just wraps up, and then they're unemployed. And then someone will move on to another job, and they'll go, well, those people I work with there were pretty cool. And they'll ring and say, hey, do you want to work on this show? Yeah. And then, we've got an audience. Anyone know any warm-up guys? And then so every single show I work on now, after doing it for about 15 years, there must be at least 10 people that I know. Mainly the cameras, because, the good cameras are always on all the good shows. So at the moment, I'm doing the NRL footy show. Don't hold that against me.
No, we won't. Although the Seagulls are very popular, I think, still in the Northern Beaches.
Manly's still very popular, yeah.
Hey, Manly.
But, the Sunday Project, so the Channel 10 show. So it's...
Is that actually on Sunday?
Yeah.
Do you work Sundays?
So, it's a live 6:30 till 7:30. So it's
Is that PM?
Super easy gig, yeah.
Oh, that's good. At least it's not AM.
So, no, not many people watch that. I'm doing... Rove McManus has a new show. Show Me the Movie on Channel 10.
Yes, I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm doing that. I'm doing a new show with Andrew Denton for Channel 7 called The Interview, which is pretty much enough rope, what he did ages ago.
Yeah.
And Little Big Shots is coming up, which was a Channel 7 show.
So it's virtually a full-time job for you, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I just finished 6 days of doing This Time Next Year, which is that Carl Stefanovic show, where it's a reality show where people come out one door and make a pledge to say they want to change their lives significantly within a year, and then we stop recording for a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Then we come back a year later.
Just go about your business for a year
It's
and
strange,
do other
isn't it?
things and then come back.
Very odd show that way, yeah. So for anyone who didn't watch it, it was a pretty decent success for Channel 9. Yeah, Carl sits on a couch. There's 2 doors. One says This Time, the other one says Next Year, which is the name of the show. And everyday Australians with amazing stories walk out the door, sit on the couch, and Carl says, "Hello, Sharon from the North Shore. What's your pledge?" And they say something like, "This time next year, I want to be," and they're a woman, "I want to be a man." We've had trans people, we've had paraplegics who say they want to walk. It's a very uplifting show to work on. It's very heavy. And it's very tricky in terms of, I'm a comedian.
It's a different approach to just like a footy show or something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
You might want to ease off a little bit and be more sensitive, I guess.
Yeah. I always say to the audience that we have a lot of weight loss stories, and I said to them, and it was actually interesting because I learned it. I did last series, and now we're just filming series 2, and I noticed a lady came out and we had a school group in, they were all girls, and girls are the best audience members.
Yeah.
By the way.
Okay.
Like,
remember that, anyone. If you're putting together a show, get girls in the audience.
So we were sitting there, and sometimes there was tragic stories of, we had a gymnast who was Australian champion when he was 14, 15, and then he, backyard accident on a trampoline, broke his neck in 4 places, never walk again, right?
No.
And his pledge was that he's going to walk.
Yeah.
And when you watch the females in the audience, some of them are crying. They don't even know the guy right, but it's so emotional.
Yes.
And then he's like,
there.
"You know what? I'm going to walk," and they're like, "Yeah," and they're clapping and cheering. The guys are like this, right? And I know people can't see me, but they just found out this guy's a paraplegic. They just got a straight face, right? And then they find out that he's going to walk, exact same face.
Oh my goodness.
Guys don't have much of a stretch. So women are awesome. I was joking around on this show that Malcolm Turnbull was going to come out this time door, and then next year it'll be Bill Shorten, And I'm not telling you how to vote, but vote that way. And I'm aware that there's a fairly liberal voting.
Yes. Well,
the other one I was saying was Barnaby Joyce is going to come out here by himself, and then the next door is going to open. There's going to be 5 kids and 3 different wives. So.
Oh dear! Did that get a laugh?
Yeah.
Well, it needs to get a laugh, really, doesn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
You have to diffuse some of these political dramas and
I know
slight scandal.
I'm not much of a political comedian, but I think if something's hot in the press, right, you got to talk about it.
I think so. It's topical.
That's right, and
People respond to that.
And comedians have this thing where they say topical can be 50% funny. Doesn't have to be as funny as your material, but it sometimes gets a bigger laugh, right?
So what is the role of the audience warm-up comedian? Is it just to keep the energy in the room, to keep people interest peaked? Is it to get them to not just applaud but to be connected to the show and what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it probably started as to keep the audience interested, and over some long records, like if you work on shows like The Voice, and I worked on the Kids Spelling Bee show on Channel 10, and that we record all day, right? And so there's people in the audience sitting there for 6 hours.
That's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you feed them, or are they allowed to go out for a break, or do they must stay in their seat?
What's actually happened now is when I first started, you had to control the audience. So if someone wanted to go to the toilet and there was 1,000 people there, there's quite a lot of people who want to go to the toilet at various stages, and you can't let them go so you have to try not to let anyone go. Anyway, someone come up with a great idea.
Here's a bucket.
That's right. Here's a catheter.
Free nappies for everyone.
Yes, and we tell people to wear a wetsuit. To the show, because you wee in your wetsuit, right?
Yeah, or you get one of those astronaut nappies. Remember that crazy American female astronaut? She drove for like 12 hours in an astronaut nappy.
That's great.
To go and kidnap. I think she was going to abduct the woman who was now in a relationship with a man she'd had an affair with, and I thought that let me down rather a lot, because astronauts to me are psychologically sound. And if you're a woman, you're a real role model. And then she just puts a nappy on and off she goes, and had gaffer tape and shovels in the boot.
Great. Is she MacGyver?
I don't know what
Bear
happened.
Grylls.
I don't know. She seemed to stay awake, but I don't think she'll be having any more moon missions or off to Mars or anything.
Yeah, well, she's in a nappy. You don't want to see a moon mission from her, do you?
I'm assuming she's in jail now and she can have all the nappies she wants there, but perhaps not appropriate for the audience.
I think with the audience warm-up, it's certainly, when I first started and I'd never seen it before, there was a producer who came to me and said, and it was a great tip, like, I'd never done it before, so I was more than willing to learn and listen. And he said to me, include everyone who works here in your bit, right? And it was such a small bit of advice, but it's so, like, these people on this new show that I'm working on with Rove, they're there for about 4.5 hours, right? So that's still a long time. But there's a lot happening. The show's on for most of that. So but there's still long breaks, and they've got to like me, and they have to connect with me, otherwise it's a long 4 hours. And therefore, if you can use the people in your act, or you can talk to the cameraman, you can make a joke about the cameraman, you can make a joke with staging, or on Ready Steady Cook there was recipe writers who would make fun of, and on Ready Steady Cook again they let me have my own fun. So we used to create, whenever a chef would pour oil or white wine jus on top of a chicken dish or whatever, I got the audience to do, because they call it a drizzle. Yeah. And so the audience, I said to them, anytime you see a chef pour something on anything, I want you all to go, drizzle. And it really started to take off. And of course, we also started the thing where when they take out the food at the start, and whether it was an apple or a carrot or whatever, we got the audience to be like, what? Whoa, no way. Like, wow, a carrot. Yeah. People used to complain about it, but people complain about anything, don't they? But
well, they do. How can you complain about a carrot?
Yeah. And I think, like, your job is to make sure that the audience don't leave, that they're connected to the show, that they're, on some shows, they're obviously recording all the laughter. That's why they're there. So they need big laughs. And you know what? It's hard to tell people to laugh. Like, in that situation when lights are on, they're not drunk. No. It's not a comedy club. No, that's right. And at a comedy club, you don't come out and say, we really need you to laugh at this, right? And so,
you just hope for the best.
Whenever you tell people that, then inevitably, whenever anyone says to you, oh, like, this is the funniest story ever, it always ends up not being a funny story. Or if it is, I don't laugh that hard at it, because they've oversold it, Yeah, that's it. So I guess you just have to stress that it's all up to them. I say, at the Sunday Project, I say this, I go, I don't want you to laugh at stuff that you don't think is funny, but we need you to react probably double what you normally do at home on the TV. Yeah. Right? And so I will say to the audience, and I'll say it to you, if you were to see, because they're going to see clips of stuff on the Sunday Project, they'll play videos and then they sort of comment on it afterwards. I'll say, if you were to see a picture of a cute puppy, what noise would you make? You'd be like, oh, yeah. And if that puppy was to be killed, what noise would you make, right? Yeah, I'm like, that's the same noise, Shaz. I'm not very convincing. Don't put me in the audience. You've been in my audiences, you're great. I'd be better just out the back making cups of tea for everyone. Massages or something. You're very... Well, if they're clean people, but I'm a bit of a germaphobe. But I can, tea, sandwiches. Yes. Yeah. General merriment. And on some shows, every show's different. Like, I remember when I was working at Ready Steady Cook and the Footy Show, cameraman from the Footy Show would say to me, you don't work at Ready Steady Cook. Like, you can't do that, what you do. Because at the Footy Show, I had a license to say whatever I want. Yeah. It's a Bogan footy fan crowd. They've usually been at the pub or something. And, I'm allowed to swear. I can come out and say whatever I want. I never got pulled back for anything that I said. And so then to go to a different show, people assume that you're a one-trick pony and you can't always do that. So same thing about working on that show with the heavy topics this time next year. The producer was new this year. He was like, you worked here last year, right? I said, yeah, I got it. And he's like, so not to come out and be like, hey, the one about the whoa. And I'm like, yeah, I've got it. You're very sensitive to that, to what the audience needs and to what the show is. I just did warm up on Struggle Street. Did you see that show? It was a SBS doco about a lot of ice addicts and stuff. They did the very last episode was on air, and then they did Struggle Street, the conversation, where they were in studio, and I had to do warm up for that.
Oh, really?
And I'd never worked with the SBS before.
No.
Is it the SBS or just SBS?
Let's just say SBS.
I like adding the in front of things.
Makes it more powerful, like the bold and the beautiful.
Yeah, well, that is it. That's the show.
The Shazza's laughter hour.
Yes.
That's
but like
very important now.
I always find that if you add, I do it deliberately to annoy people because people are very OCD and people are they like to correct people. For example, I will say this. I'll go, are you on the Facebook? You know, right? And they think, well,
you sound like you're about 80. You on the Facebook?
Yeah. Do you have that the Instagram? Yeah. And they're like, it's just called Facebook, mate. And you're like, oh right, sorry. You know, mobs are
you're a bit of a stirrer then, I think.
Just messing with them. But,
that's funny.
Yeah.
So you're off to work tonight on the Footy Show.
Yes.
So that's a nighttime audience. So they're mainly adults.
Yeah, adults. The show has completely changed. We don't need to really know about it, but for 24 years, it was not really a footy show. It was light entertainment with comedians, footy players, jokes, big audience, easy crowd.
Lots of guys in dresses, handing it up.
They used to do that back in the day.
Singing and dancing.
And now they've changed the format completely. It's a completely opposite format. So the people who loved the show are now just completely shattered for some reason. If you jump on the social media,
well, yeah,
it's not that it's not a bad show now. They're saying it is. It's just a footy show now. So it's
just different.
It's just footy, right? And I don't mind it. But
is it more like the AFL football code shows that are in Victoria?
Yeah, not the
They're
AFL footy show though, but yeah, like AFL 360.
It's a serious, more of a serious wrap up of football.
Absolutely, yeah. So,
and do they have footballers in there?
Yeah, there's usually 4 footballers. Andrew Johns is in there. Brad Fittler's on there tonight. A couple of other footballers.
Are they dressed in their football outfits or?
That'd be funny. They should do that. They should.
I like the AFL footballers' outfits.
Oh yes,
with their singlets and their long muscular arms and their.
See, I can't say that about
tight little bottoms.
I
can say it though.
No,
you can't. You can't. Don't say it.
But if I was
I'd have to cut that out.
Yeah,
but
it's okay for you to say about.
Fine for me to say it.
Sure.
No one's going to say time's up, Shazza. Not to me. I'm just appreciating a fine figure of a young man.
It would be the worst thing that's ever happened to me doing audience warm-up happened at the NRL footy show a couple of years ago. You don't even need to know footy to know this, but there was, because it made the press pretty heavy, the show's live on air, and they had this arm wrestle competition, and Wendell Saylor and another guy, Ben Ross, made the grand final, and they were arm wrestling on air, and he breaks his arm, like on air, like really badly. And the host, Fatty, swore, and then, no pun intended, but he threw to a break, right?
Oh, my goodness.
And this guy, Ben Ross, in the commercial break, he's like, he's screaming.
Oh, my goodness. How do you cope with that as an audience warm-up?
Yeah, because whenever we go to a commercial break, I have to jump on the mic, right? I can't even really remember what I said. We have 4 minutes, and I can hear in my ear how long we've got left to go.
Is there a doctor in the house?
Yeah, and there was, right? There's a medic at Channel 9, so they carried him out. And I just did that stupid thing that we all do when we go watch a footy match and someone gets injured. And I don't know why we do this, but a guy gets carried off in the stretcher and we're all like, good on you, mate. Like we clap him off, like, good on you, mate.
Yeah.
At least you're not dead.
Yeah, right? Bit of encouragement.
Yeah, so I just did that. He's getting carried out on the stretcher out of the studio, and I'm like, give a round of applause, everybody, right? But the worst thing for me, and that's being really selfish, because obviously the worst thing that happened was for him, not me, right?
Yeah.
I didn't break any bones.
No, you still get paid.
Yeah, but that happened in the middle of the show. So we probably had another 4 commercial breaks left.
Oh.
The show was done after that, right? As far as being in the studio goes. They saw something pretty horrific, and I'm up trying to tell jokes, and they're just like, they were giving me nothing. And I was battling. And he broke his humerus, and so did I.
But they all got repaired again,
yeah.
didn't they? That's the good thing.
Yeah, and the ironic thing was that Ben Ross was doing it for a charity, which is the Men of League charity, which is a charity for footballers who need help because they're injured.
That's the double irony.
So it happened like it was the best thing that happened.
Was it an actual? They were actually arm wrestling. It was like
they were tied up. Yeah, they had their arms tied together. There was a professional arm wrestling.
Maybe his he didn't have early osteoporosis or anything?
He had bad shoulders, but I don't know if that had anything to do with
you
it.
Wouldn't think that would happen to a strapping young lad like that.
Yeah.
Must have been the angle or something.
It was pretty heavy, and a bunch of other things have happened similar to that in studios. And I've got a little bit of an arsenal of stories that I can tell audiences now. So that someone came and saw me do it, a friend once, and they said, it's great, you've got all these stories about how you've done this job at other places. He goes, if I've done audience warm-up and all I've got is my material, right? And it's different to going, I've tried to do material, and I do jokes from my stand-up set in the show, but I'll try and make it relevant to whatever it is we're talking about. Because I feel like if you go to see a TV show and then there's a guy at the front who's doing his stand-up set, you're a little bit like, why are we watching this? No matter how good they are, right? So if it's related to what they're experiencing at the time, then I think...
It's more personal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you'll get them to comply and help you out when they need to applaud or laugh or react to a puppy or an arm breaking, whatever it is.
On some shows, you don't have to do much. Like I say, I'm working on the Sunday Project. Tommy Little is a comedian from Melbourne, and he works on that show every Sunday, and he's fantastic. He does most of my job.
Well, that's nice. Well, I'm glad you were able to feed the family.
Yeah. It's good. You know what?
And stay in Sydney.
Oh, that's right. Well,
because I imagine when you were younger, it didn't matter if you went on tour with other comics because you didn't have those responsibilities.
No, that's right. Yeah, and you didn't mind going away so much. Get to travel around, see the country and all that sort of stuff. But I just realised today, because the comedy festival starts tonight.
Yes.
In Melbourne International Comedy Festival. I've never done it, right? And the reason is that I'm always here doing... Like, I'm working on 6 shows at the moment.
Oh, my goodness.
Financially...
You wouldn't have time.
Well, no, it's not even about that, right? Financially, it's just not worth it to go... I stay here and make a fairly good amount of money, or go down there and lose a crap ton of money, and...
Maybe when the children have grown up. 20 years.
I did Adelaide Fringe once, and it went well. I only did 5 nights or 4 nights or something like that. I sold out a couple of nights, and I still lost money, you know, because there's 600 comedians or something doing the...
There's a lot of choice, and then there's all those extra expenses to actually put a show on, isn't there?
Yeah, so...
Accommodation.
We were to go down, flights, you're there for a month, right? Posters, venue hire, registration fee. I think the Melbourne registration fee is like $500 or something, or more than that. You got to pay for your lighting, your sound, your tickets, yeah. And by then, you need to have a ticket price of about $300, right?
You really need to be a big name in comedy to actually go to a festival show.
Yeah.
You almost don't need to do it by the time you're a big name because you've made it.
That's right.
And some people go there to create awareness about what they do and their shows. But
yeah, someone like Carl Barron,
Catch-22.
he barely does the festivals, right?
No.
I mean,
well, he probably doesn't have time either.
No.
Yeah. And so with cruises, you don't do as many of them now, but you go on the shorter ones.
Yeah, I've got a good relationship with the people who book those comedy cruises, Sit Down Comedy Club from Brisbane, and I've worked with them forever. And they're great. They'll say they're aware of that I've got kids and that I do care for the kids a lot as well. And so they'll say, hey, do you want to do this three-day cruise? Which is fantastic. Some comics are on 7 or 8, 9, 10-day cruises. Yeah. They'll get off for 2 days, they're back on them again.
Yeah. You fly all over the place and then you go from place to place. And so what else do you do, Steve, with your busy life to keep fit and well? Do you do any exercise? Do you just take the children to the park or go walking? Yeah,
I love sport. I always have. So I've always been fairly active with that. I always played cricket most of my life. I played footy. I still play touch footy. Yep. So it looks like in winter I might be playing 3 nights a week, touch footy. If I can, obviously, if I'm not working or something. And just recently, I've been running. I didn't really like running because...
No, I don't like running.
No, I don't see the point of it. And
no, neither do I.
Because I played footy for so long, I've got like a lot of old injuries. And so if I go for a run, 15-minute run, I really feel it. And then if I could get on one of those stepping machines in the gym and do an hour and feel fine. So
you tried yoga or Tai Chi or anything?
I just kept laughing through yoga.
Me too.
Yeah. And
I like laughter yoga, that's about it.
No, yeah, that'd be great.
And yoga nidra is good where you just lie there and you go to sleep and relax your body.
And fart. Well, we went to Bali when we only had Grace, so she was probably 2. And Miranda and I she took me to this yoga class and we left Grace with, then we hired a nanny. And she didn't like the nanny, right? And so we just dropped her and ran. And I went to this yoga class, and it was later on, Miranda was to say to me, "That's not your normal yoga class, right?" It was, it was very intense. It was about all the chakras and the moons colliding. And this woman, right, she was doing this thing. Well, she was. We had to breathe in and out as fast as we could, right? I'm the only dude in the class, right? And I look around and everyone's going, and like I'm just going, like, oh, I'm not averse to that kind of stuff, and you know, spirituality and all that kind of cool. I'm okay with it, but it just, and anyway, while this is all happening, the nanny can't control my daughter and has to come and find us, and she walks in like 15 minutes into the class that I'm not enjoying and says, "Someone," and I'm like, "I'll go." And I was straight out of there.
Did you ask your daughter to do that?
I did, yeah. Slipped
Get
her
out of the
said,
deep breathing yoga class?
Any chance? Let's go see Chappelle. I said,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
No,
go visit.
I'm surprised you all didn't pass out with that kind of level of oxygen going in.
I think I'd like to do some yoga. I'm very aware that you have to, as you get older, it's very important to stretch, right? Because you see
Yes.
these people just, you know, there's a lady that lives near me, and it's like she's walking around all day looking for some money on the ground, but she's not, you know, she's bent over from...
I know. Posture is really important.
Yeah.
When you're tired, when you're stressed out, that's when we forget to do it. When you're at the laptop typing all the time. As we get older, keep aware of posture and standing straight but not stiff.
Yeah.
Your head's supposed to float up like a balloon.
Yeah. Well, I had a little...
elongated.
Recently, I had a little bit of depression. I had some bit of head noise, and I always find that, you know, going for a run or going to the gym or whatever, just...
Clears
It makes
it.
it-
Do you
yeah.
like the beach, Steve?
Yeah, I love the beach. I grew up
Yeah.
in Newcastle, so it was weird. I never really enjoyed, like, I'm probably the only person from Newcastle who doesn't know how to surf, right? It's pretty silly. But I love the beach. We go to the beach as much as we can. We live not far from the beach in Sydney, so
Me too.
yeah, and we go to the beach.
It's very healthy, isn't it?
I'm trying to get my daughter. My end goal is, like a lot of people, try and get their kids to play golf or tennis, right?
Is that so they can become a champion player and
make
you
the
can
money.
retire, or
Yeah.
just for their own interest and health?
No, I think they want to do it so they can make an absolute fortune.
That could be a prodigy.
Yeah, that's right. Whereas I want to put my daughter in the pro surfing tour, like so, and just, I mean, there's not a hell of a lot of money in the surfing. I mean, there can be, right?
There is in sponsorship.
Yeah, for men, not a lot for the women, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this has ever been brought up, but it's very sexist sport, surfing.
Oh, okay.
You ever noticed?
No, well, I'm not a surfer, so
No, but if you were the
I've never
surfing's on
had
the
that problem.
the surfing's on the telly now, right? And
Yeah.
it's quite a good coverage. And this is what happens, and it happened at Snapper Rocks, which was the first one of the year up at the Gold Coast. So they operate on a window of like, this is when it's going to start and this is when it will finish, and it's sometimes like 3 weeks, and they'll wait. They're waiting for the good waves, right? And if the waves aren't good enough, you know what they do?
They put the women in.
No one's ever said anything about it, and I feel like...
Well, we're saying it now, aren't we?
Yeah,
We're saying it now.
A mate of mine and I, we love the surfing. We watch all the time. We're with the fantasy league and whatever, we pick a team and stuff. And I said to him, "Do you reckon it's a bit sexist?" And he goes, "You know what?" He goes, "I'm waiting for one day where one of the female surfers just says something about it,
She'll
and just
just
goes
snap.
and just says, you know, hey, I guess they've got it pretty good. They're traveling the world surfing and they're on a tour, right? And they're getting sponsored and paid. So maybe they want to say anything, but." That will happen for 4 days. The waves aren't very good, so the women surf.
And you've noticed that regularly, have you?
Yeah.
Well, I've never seen that, but that is something to bring up, I think, with the association.
You reckon?
I think it's important.
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit crap. Like, I mean, you know, I don't know why they're doing it. It's like, if the waves aren't good enough for the men, they shouldn't be good enough for the women.
It
right?
should be equal.
Yeah.
Equal wave
Or
time.
everyone get out there. Look, I understand that they've got a schedule, but they've quite often it's, again, 3 weeks, right?
Do women surfers do the big waves? You know those big waves there's somewhere in Hawaii?
They don't do that
South
tournament,
Africa?
no.
It's just like massive.
Yeah, so again, that's a bit sexist.
I wonder if they're just not allowed.
But for what, like, who's stopping them, though? Not the police or
That's
something?
right.
Like,
Don't take another step towards that wave. Yeah.
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 No, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I'm sure it'll change eventually, like women in the military, women in the police force, women getting the vote, all of that. So it's all changed now, but
Oh, man.
who knows? Maybe there's certain rules. I don't know.
Yeah. And I said, "Oh man," I called you a man. That was pretty crap thing to say. I noticed that. I'm not one of those. I don't like being one of those
I don't think we have to be too careful.
champion feminists.
No.
Because I find them often to be a bit more annoying than people who aren't feminists.
Hardcore.
Where they're going a bit hard on it. But
Yeah.
I always find this with my daughter anyway, because I'd like to, a lot of women have had to grow up in pretty crappy times, right?
Yeah.
With the way they're treated and their pay gap and, all this sort of stuff. That just little stuff like, when people go, hey, do you guys want any? And the word guys is always bandied around a lot, isn't it?
It's just a very common way of saying anything, isn't it?
Yeah. But I'm looking at my daughter and my wife and I'm saying, hey, guys. And I'm like, hey, they're not guys.
I know, it's hard to know where to draw the line and what we're supposed to say nowadays.
Yeah, well, I always try to...
I think if you say it nicely, it's all right.
Yeah, I always try to give her a whole bunch of female role models, try and point her in the way of... If I'm trying to teach her a lesson on something, I'll always refer it back to a female, so it's relevant to her, and it's also strong and empowering for her. I mean, she's 5,
that's wonderful.
but
yeah.
I always fill her head with so much information, and there's times where I'm like, oh, you're an idiot, right? And this happened once. We were driving in the car, pulled up the traffic lights, and she goes, Dad, that flag there, right? And I look up and it's the Australian flag, right? She goes, is that the one that we don't like? And that was the first time I was like, oh, you're an idiot. Like, I don't like flags. I don't like patriotism. And I don't like if I was to like a flag, I like the Aboriginal flag, right? And so we champion that flag in our family. I said to her, I don't really like flags, sweetheart, but if you want to... You're
allowed to like a flag.
You can, but I don't really understand it.
No.
I don't get it.
I think you're doing a very good job. I think as a parent, you and Miranda are doing excellent work.
Thank you.
And you just muddle through and do the best you can, and I think they'll turn out really well.
Well, it's a lottery, isn't it? It's a lucky dip.
Yeah. They're healthy and they're fairly happy children. Do they like music? Do you play music in the car?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with music.
Yeah? What music do you like, Steve? Because we'll probably have some music during the show. What would you like?
Well, I called my kid Dempsey after Paul Dempsey.
Paul Dempsey.
Yeah, from Something for Kate.
That was Paul Dempsey, the singer from Something for Kate, with Deja Vu from their 2003 album, The Official Fiction.
I like good music, which is why, back on the audience warm-up topic, I was working at The Voice for a little while and I had to stop because that show's not about music, and funnily enough. And it was just getting to me and I had to say, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, the Madden Brothers. And inside I'm like stabbing my, you sell out, you're a sellout, you're a sellout. So I've gone to music festivals and I love blues music.
What would be a blues artist you would like?
Well, this weekend, Blues Fest in Byron.
Oh, okay.
I've missed 2 in a row now, but I very rarely...
That's again in 20 years when the children have left home.
Yeah.
You'll be able to do that every year. That was Funky Tonight by John Butler Trio from their album Grand National. And I believe John Butler Trio are usually at Blues Fest. They are one of the staple bands there.
We did this on a cruise recently. We sat around for dinner and one of the comedians said, if you had a time machine to go back and see one concert, what would it be? That's a really good question. What about you, Shaz?
What concert?
Yeah. If you could go back to a time.
To a time?
But you're your age now when you get there.
I'd actually really like to see Elvis in 1968 when he was gorgeous in his black...
In Vegas or something.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Like, he was at the cream of the crop then.
When he was doing those movies, I love those Elvis
They
movies.
were tremendous.
So bad
I must
acting,
say, but he's an amazing singer and artist.
Yeah.
He just got caught up in the fame
Yeah.
and all the hangers-on.
Yeah.
Who just
and the pantry.
Yeah. Who just seemed to forget to take him to rehab, and as long as he was getting all of that... the uppers and the downers and all the food, and as long as they got their houses and their cars, that no one seemed to really step in and say, mate, we might take you to rehab and get you cleaned up and some good healthy food and lose the weight. But that's a whole other story. I would love to see Elvis. There's a lot. I mean, if I went back, I'd love to see a Rolling Stones concert.
Yeah.
When they were young.
Yeah.
When I was young too, because everything's better when you're young, usually. I mean, it's good to be any age, but...
Yeah.
When you're young and you're 25 and you think the whole world is at your feet, really, it's a nice feeling.
Well, it'd be good to see the Stones when they were younger.
I would like to see that.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Do you know there's a famous show? Look, I'm sure they've played a lot of famous shows, but because now they do stadiums, right? And I don't necessarily like the stadium show much. They did the Enmore Theatre about maybe
Goodness.
I'd be just guessing, but somewhere between 8 and 10 years ago, where they came out and did the stadium shows, but then just randomly said, hey, we're doing the Enmore Theatre. It's happening on Tuesday.
Some bands do that. They do a little drop-in show, don't they?
I would do that if I was...
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, I've heard stories of that where Red Hot Chili Peppers were at a bar and there was a Chili Peppers cover band. And then, Anthony...
They jump in.
He's just gone up and Flea's gone up and they're like,
do you like the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Is that a band you like?
Yeah, I think people have started to criticise them a little bit because the last couple of albums have been a little bit, whatever. But if you think about it, that band, like when the first time you heard them, you were in high school, right? And they're still pumping out good music. They're an incredible live band.
Why would they do anything else?
Yeah, I saw, I play drums. And I saw...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Chad Smith, the drummer, is an incredible drummer.
Yeah.
And I remember watching... I was at the concert. It was one of the big day outs. But I didn't see it because it wasn't as close. But I watched it replayed on Channel V. And there was a lighting guy on a rack. And Chad Smith's playing Suck My Kiss, right? And if you listen to the drums in Suck My Kiss, it's it's not an easy song to play. Like, for me to concentrate and play it is quite tricky. He's playing it, and with one hand, he's throwing a drumstick and not missing a beat at the lighting guy, right? So this lighting guy's up on this, lighting rack while the song's on, and he's like, ding, 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 and he'd throw a stick, and it hit the dude, and then... Did
it knock him out?
No,
or did he throw it
he's
back?
laughing at him, right? And he's trying to hit him, and then all of a sudden... they start coming back at him, so he's playing, and the song goes on, and the band are playing like nothing's happening. But he's like, whoa, and he ducks to the left, and then he ducks.
So has he just thrown the sticks up? Because the lighting guy got about 6 sticks.
Yeah,
and he's just thrown them back.
I think Chad threw them first, and he got them all then, and he was like throwing them back.
That's hilarious.
But man, when I play that song in the shed, when I was playing in my shed at home in Newcastle, the concentration and the look on my face, looking at every single drum and the stick, whereas he's just like, whatever, mate.
That's the sign of a real artist, isn't it?
Yeah.
Real professional. Do you have much opportunity to play drums now?
No. I gave my drum kit to Mick Meredith.
Did he?
Years ago, and I think he gave it away.
But maybe one of these days you can get yourself a new drum kit. When the children are older.
Yeah.
You can't really do drumming at nap time, can you?
No, you... Wake up! Actually, you might do that just to, because he's waking me up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, take that. Don't they say that you should try and get your children to sleep with noise? So go and do the vacuuming, talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Don't be so precious about it because they won't sleep.
Do you know, we couldn't get Dempsey to sleep for ages, and so let me just find this thing for you. And there's a little app that you've got, and it's this, right? That's not me, right? That's the app, right?
That's an app.
It's called the Baby Shusher, and it shushes.
Oh my goodness!
And so that shushing it only goes for 30 minutes, right? So, but I made a playlist of like the same song 9 times. So
oh my goodness!
It would go. But you know what? After a while, it gets annoying because remember that annoying kid at school who was always the shusher in class?
Yeah.
They were making more noise shushing than the other kids.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. A shushing app.
It worked.
It's so rather than softly played Mozart or chimes or whales singing, you do the shushing app.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So any parents out there, if you're at your wits' end trying to get the baby asleep, try the shushing app.
I was double shushing for a while, so I had the shushing app on, and then I'm in the background. Shh, 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 shh.
Now that sounds like a yoga class, doesn't it?
Do you want a bit of double shushing?
Let's have some double shushing before we wind up.
Triple shushing?
I don't know if that would get me to sleep, but it's a good thing to try anyway.
Do you know what I did to get into sleep? Was I just put on my comedy DVD. He went straight to sleep.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, boom, boom. That's it. Well, anyway, Steve, do you like any Australian bands or Australian music in particular?
Yeah, I like You Or My, Something for Kate. I love sort of alternative 90s music a lot. I like a lot of new music. I'm one of those people that continuously listens to new music and love new music.
That's great. Keeping up with the young folk.
Yeah, because old people, what happens is people like our age, they always say stuff like, oh, music's not good anymore, and that's not the truth. There's actually so much amazing music around. Yeah. I've got a little music group with a bunch of friends, and we do a countdown at the end of the year. We've got a Facebook group that's closed off, and we just chuck songs in if you hear a new song, and then at the end of the year we release our top 20 songs for the year, and we count back. And
that's wonderful.
The number one song drops on New Year's Day. We used to make CDs for each other back in the day.
Yeah.
And I even made intros, so I'd record into my phone, number 16, right? And
sounds like you're at an RSL club. Meat raffle.
My mate got texted me. He goes, mate, you got to stop doing the intros. I was like, why? And he goes, I picked up a girl, right, and took her home, and I put shuffle on the on the iPod, right? And all of a sudden you hear 16. Here's number 12, and he's like, "What's this?" She's like, "What's going on?"
Put him off. Okay, well that's good to know.
Yeah, well, someone once told me this, Shaz, and it's if you put music on, make sure it's a live album, because at some point there'll be a standing ovation, right? So you're doing the business, and you're getting a clap from the crowd. So
women don't care about that.
No, fair enough.
We don't need the clap. Anyway, on that happy note, we need to let Steve get on. He's got to go to work. Yeah. He's got to go to the footy show. He's got hours and hours of footballers. And
well, it only goes for 1 hour now. So
it's 1 hour. Yeah. So you've got 1 hour. That's better than 4 hours or 5 hours. And you've got to get underway, get off to Channel 9 Studios for another exciting evening. But isn't it wonderful you're earning a living using your talents and your abilities, and good for you.
It's good. You always get caught up in your own crap sometimes, and you think, this and that, and you see people doing really well. Like, when you tell people you're a comedian, they sometimes look at you like, oh, I've never heard of you, or whatever. You don't know every musician in the world, do you?
No.
You don't know every painter, every artist. I've been making a living for 15 years doing stuff that I like to do, and I consider that to be very lucky.
You've done big shows with big names, and you've done all sorts of tours and cruises and audience warm-up, so you're doing pretty good.
It's all right. I'm very lucky.
Yes, very
lucky.
And
I've been very lucky to be on this fantastic radio show.
Yes, well, thank you.
Long-time listener, first-time caller, and...
it goes all over the world.
Do you want to shush me?
If anyone who's been listening, and if you go to any tapings of television shows in Sydney and you see Steve Philp up the top, say, Shazza said say hello. Go and say hello to him in the break, obviously not during on.
Yeah, and then just do this to me.
And then... Oh, that's almost weird. I think I'd have nightmares hearing that. I'd feel like there was something strange, some apparition in the room.
Breathing in your ear.
Yeah, or someone with having an asthma attack.
Thanks for having me, Shaz.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for being on, Steve. And thank you for listening to Shazza's Laughter Hour. We'll be back next Thursday night, 6 to 7 p.m, here at Radio Northern Beaches, 88.7, 90.3 FM. Or you can listen through the website rnb.org.au. And once again, thank you very much to my special guest, the shusher himself, Steve Philp. Yay! And until next week, everyone, have a happy, healthy and laughing week.